With the 2024 election behind us, it's fair to say this election cycle has caused serious stress and strain between some family members and friends. The holiday season should be very interesting. So, what do we do next? How do we handle the hard conversations moving forward? Author Dan Melchior is here to help us out. His new book, The Silk Finisher, takes a look at our complicated history and how division continues to plague our country. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
So, tell us about your book, The Silk Finisher, and why you wrote it.
Yeah, so the Silk Finisher I started about a decade ago, and I start the book with a 1963 murder of a gay funeral home director. And that crime shocked and divided my hometown. And it also shocked and divided my family. There were people that believed that the victim got what he deserved. There were others who believed that the soldiers that committed the crime were cold-blooded killers. My family was divided from maternal and paternal side, except for my mom. My mom believed he didn't deserve it, as my dad's family did too. So she had to bridge that divide. And that divide was someone, a family friend that got murdered. And so my mom had to navigate some really, really difficult conversations and situations in her life. And that's why I wrote the book, because I think it resonates with the things that we deal with today.
Well, yeah, how does it relate to what's happening in society today?
Well, if you look this happened in 1963, and there were a lot of political divides back then. I mean, that was 63 was when Kennedy was assassinated. We had all the things that were going with the civil rights era, and some of those same challenges we have today. So this is a bit of history repeating. And that's when I heard this story and really started researching it, I said, this is not different than what I feel we're experiencing today, which is one of the main reasons that I wrote it.
How do we stop repeating the same mistakes? How do we make a more inclusive and understanding society?
Yeah, I think it really starts, and it sounds very simple, but it really starts with common ground. And that was one thing my mom was able to do. She had friends and family that vehemently disagreed with her on really controversial topics. That didn't stop her from having them over for dinner, having a meal, but she would focus the conversations on what we're doing today, the meal that we're having. And then eventually you might get to those subject matters, but you've kind of greased the skids, if you will, because everybody's really on this common ground of enjoying a meal and things like that. She was really, really good at that. And the interesting thing is, she was the least educated person in our family. She didn't even finish high school because her dad wouldn't let her. And her dad is the one, my grandpa taught her to hate. And my mom said, that's not the way it should be. She disagreed with her dad, but she loved him to death. And she demonstrated that for us. And that's literally how me and my siblings have been able to live our lives. She put us in a right direction and through just example.
I've heard some people say, and I'm sure you have too, that it's not okay to agree to disagree this time around. It's personal. A vote for someone who doesn't align with me morally or ethically is an attack on me. That's what I'm hearing. Can those relationships be repaired?
Well, I think they can, but they can't be in one conversation. It's not going to happen over dinner in one time. But I think one of the things you have to do is ask, why do you think that way? Be very curious. Why do you think about a certain opinion that way? Not, oh, this is my opinion and you should therefore think like I do. Why do you think that? I heard an old adage a long time ago when I started writing this book, and it said, do not tell anyone your opinion. Tell them a story. And that's what we need to do. We need to tell some stories. And in those stories, oftentimes we do find that common ground. And if you can find it, then we can move forward. And again, I think there's an unrealistic expectation that we can have somebody over for Thanksgiving, and by the end of the evening, everybody's going to be happy and agreeing. And that's just not going to happen. So I think we have to base it in realism and be pragmatic about where we are.
It's a process for sure. Dan Melchior, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
The book is called The Silk Finisher and will be available through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all major book outlets on December 10th. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you again next time.